So about 3 months ago, I got to go on what turned out to be the coolest motorcycle experience in my life. I got to go to Daytona. So instead of doing like a race recap video or something like that, I thought I would just kind of talk about the experience because nobody needs to see me recap last place. I was going to start this video off with a list of the things that I learned at Daytona because it's very different than pretty much anywhere else I've ever been. I'm guessing most places anybody else has ever been. Talk a little bit about the experience, and then I'll recap a little bit of 2 races, and then that'll be the end of the video. I'm in the middle of 2 engine rebuilds, and it's winter. I'm freezing. I've been frozen for 3 months, and I just thought I would watch this and try to relive some of the good times. So here is what I learned about going to Daytona as a newcomer, a first-timer. Find people and rent a garage. So the garage setup is a little bit different than, I'm going to guess, most tracks, in that the garages are separate from where the camping area. So the garages are open from depending on when they want to open in the morning, like 6:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then the camping area is outside. You can go and camp and just do everything out there, but I would find up to, I think 5 is probably the max you want to do, maybe 6 if you're getting a little wild. I think you really want to keep the garage to like 4. Find people and rent a garage with them. And then there's plenty of power available in the garages, so you don't have to worry about running a generator or anything like that. I could not find regular pump fuel. I did not think this could be an issue, and I swear I looked at the website and it wouldn't be an issue. And I walked around, I had somebody else walk around, I couldn't find, just regular 91, 93 pump fuel. So if you go down there and you don't have a car, find somebody with one, or maybe just tell me where the pump is, because I have a feeling it might have been related to what ultimately ended up killing my bike. So I did have bike issues, but again, still didn't change this from being the most awesome motorcycle experience I've ever had. So another thing, I would bring a sport chalk. So like if you have a Baxley sport chalk, bring one of those things so you can't fuel in the garage. So you only need 1 per set of people in the garage. Put it right outside the garage so you can roll a bike out there, fuel the bike up. You don't need somebody else to come and chase you around with a paddock stand or something like that. Now to the track. The banking will eventually become fun. Maybe there's a bunch of Travis Pastranas out there. Maybe I'm just a pussy. The first time I went up there, if there was not a person right in front of me proving that you could do it, no way in hell I would have driven up that thing. It just seemed ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. By the end of it, it was one of the most fun things ever. I mean, it feels like you're riding in a video game. But I knew I wasn't alone in this, so I went down with 2 other guys who had never been there before. And one of the guys, just one of the most fearless guys I've ever met. He's been riding for a long time. We both looked at each other, and I knew it wasn't just me that was spooked by it. And I could see him thinking, I don't know if I want to go back out there again. Ultimately, we did both go back out there again, and he ended up taking 3rd place in a GTL race in the amateur, taking a friggin' 3rd place home in a national race. So it was a good thing he went back out there. And both of us ended up having an awesome time, but that first time out, it's spooky. It is unlike anything. It's unlike, I didn't expect what it was going to be, and then it turned out to be awesome. So another thing on the track, the 2 horseshoes are incredibly tight. So I watch a lot of sports car racing. The Daytona 24-hour race is my favorite race of the year to watch. I've watched a lot of onboard. The week before the 24-hour was the 24 hours of iRacing. I watched a ton of onboard on that. I wasn't prepared for how tight, in reality, the 2 horseshoes were, and they are so slow on a bike, and I kept overrunning them. They're 40 mile an hour. And they've shown, because I did the Team Hammer Day, they were showing the onboard video of what a pole lap on a superbike looked like, and they're down to 41 miles an hour. It's tough to bring yourself to actually go that slow, and it took me, I think, until about Saturday to rewire my brain that I had to go that slow, and it wasn't just that I wasn't able to turn. You might be able to see on my bike, I have a sticker that says faster everywhere. This next point would be faster everywhere. More so on this track than anywhere else, and where that kind of came from is after, it was probably on Friday night, Saturday night, we were sitting around at night, and we're just talking about the track and whatnot. And I was talking about places where I thought I could be faster, and somebody who's had a ton of experience, a ton of success at this track, wins at this track, wins as an owner at this track, was overhearing this. He said, "Matt, I know where you can go faster." And I said, "Where?" Because I thought he was up on the fence on turn 3 watching. He goes, "You could go faster everywhere." And as simple and basic as that sounds, that one really resonated with me, because this track, unlike any other one that I've been to, you carry your mistakes so much longer. You can carry a mistake for a mile and a half on this track, so it's 3.5 miles. I bet you can carry a mistake for a mile and a half, and it just kills you that entire time. So if you can be faster everywhere, that's ideal. I know that sounds incredibly basic, but it just resonated with me, and if I ever get to go back there are some spots on this track where I know I can be faster, and let's just say you were able to carry an extra 0.2 in a turn, that may turn into 0.3 down a straightaway, because you just build that speed and maintain that speed. So I don't know, maybe it sounds stupid, but I'm going to try to be faster everywhere next time. The bus stop, so this is the first time they've run this race with the bus stop, the redone bus stop, because they redid the bus stop after Priest had that crazy crash in that NASCAR race. Anyway, it's paved now. I could not find a visual until one of the races on Saturday on my turn-in point. Once I was able to find it, I was able to push my braking marker like 50 feet further. So watching the Daytona 24-hour, they were talking about that a ton, and a ton of the drivers could not find the braking. They couldn't see it as well because it's no longer grass. It's not as defined. And bikes sit up higher, so I can only imagine what they were doing in the cars, plus they run at night too. But yeah, the visual on the bus stop is real difficult, and I know the track, I guess whoever the president of Daytona during the 24-hour race was talking about trying to do something about that. But I can tell you for this weekend, it was tough to actually see it. So when we went down there, the next one, it could be really windy. This was 2 hurricanes that basically just hit Florida. We kind of threaded the needle on that. I think a lot of us weren't even sure if there was going to be a race, if there was going to be damage or whatnot. But anyway, it was very windy the entire time we were down there, and most of the days it was 25 mile per hour winds, with gusts going up much further than that. And all 4 of the days that we were there, the wind was in your face as soon, actually, on the video, it's going to be when you're, it's going to be when you're coming out of NASCAR 2, it was straight in your face. So you were a lot slower down the back stretch than you were on the front stretch. But it would do some weird things, and it would kind of push you. And if you're any bit out of that bubble, it's going to take you with it. And so in the practice day, I'd been warned that you can end up drifting outward to the right towards a wall. I wasn't finding that to be the case at all for me. I actually kept coming inside, and it may have been because I was showing too much of my body and bringing myself in that way, but the wind was playing havoc on a lot of people. And I mean, it's just, you're in Florida. I assume that's going to be a thing all the time. Sprocket-wise, bring a couple of rear sprockets. I found that a 43 rear with a 15 front was good. I started out with the stock gearing of a 1544, ended up with moving to a 1543. The 43 was the better sprocket. If I was going to be running around people, I would have been faster with a 44 running just by myself. I ended up maxing on the 44 at 133 miles an hour, and I ended up maxing at about 145 miles an hour on the 43. But obviously, it's not just about the max speed you hit, so there's a limit to how non-aggressive, I guess you want to go on that gearing. Next point, turn 4 has a very interesting bump on it. That is the turn that's between the horseshoe. You're at about 100 miles an hour through that turn. You're over 100 miles an hour looking at my data. It keeps things interesting. It makes you feel alive. Something I had heard about coming down, and this may have been true before some of the repave, but I had heard that your chest can get really beaten up and people would just walk home with bruises and whatnot. Now, I wear a Helite vest, airbag vest, so maybe that took some of it away, but I feel like I didn't have any chest issues at all. So if you have just even a light protection for your chest, It was kind of a non-issue for me, but it was something that I had been warned about. Next point was be prepared for rain. I was told, and I didn't get to see this play out in person, I was told that a lot of people won't run this track in the rain, and I understand why. You have to cross paint multiple times because you're going on and off the NASCAR track versus the why am I blanking out on what it's called? The infield. And one of the main ones, well, obviously you cross it twice during the chicane, but that turn into turn one, you're going across that paint really fast, and that's heavy braking. And I just know that there's a fair amount of people that won't run that, based on the feedback I was getting from talking to people there. I was 100% ready to run in the rain. I wanted to run in the rain, especially when we finally got it on Sunday. Now, we never ended up racing in the rain, but I was praying for it because I knew it was going to be my only chance to basically not finish last. Now, I'm not a terribly great rain racer, but I do go out, like, since I started doing this in 2020, anytime it's raining on a track day or whatever, I go out. It's because I wanted to get the experience for something like this, but it ended up not raining, but I was ready for it, and I wanted it to rain on that Sunday. Next point. Daytona is, I don't know if you know this, I didn't. I bet most people know this, but I didn't. Daytona is actually a city. I thought it was just a racetrack. Yeah, there's a racetrack like right in the middle of a giant bustling city, and there's tons of stuff to do around it. Not that we did a whole ton of it, but there's tons of it. But the point I wanted to make is that if you go and get dropped off at a restaurant and then you got to walk home, just because the Google Maps says it's 0.6 miles away or something like that to your campsite, it's a long walk. Yeah, be prepared for like a 2 to 3 mile walk, and maybe climbing a couple fences and then getting escorted by security through different spots, and then them laughing at you when you fall over the chain link fence. All right, back to the racing stuff. So if you go down here, especially if you're coming from as far as I did, which is about a 22-hour drive, there's a good chance you're going to be carpooling with somebody. Bring the spares that you think you might end up needing that you're not going to be able to find at the track. You're going to be limited on space, most likely. I was, so you have to make some decisions. I went through all my spares, I labeled every single thing, and I brought every single thing that I thought I might need that could be a failure point that I was able to bring without taking a ton of space. That's going to be true for any time you travel to a track, but probably especially more so when you're traveling 22 hours to go to a race. And ultimately, it still didn't save me because I had some other kind of issue, but go through your spares, be very, very sure of what they are, where they are, label everything. The next point is that I watched as many videos as I could getting prepared for this race weekend and everything like that. Onboard car racing I find to be more useful to get a lay of the land on the track than I do watching people's motorcycle videos, because for the most of the track it's fine and I can understand what's going on. The elevation, not that you have elevation changes, but you have the banking, you have the angle changes. I feel like you see it better in the car, but the thing to be worried about by watching car videos is that the braking markers are so much different. Like if you go and watch one of the LMP cars from the 24-hour race, their braking markers are twice as close. Those four wheels stop so much quicker than two wheels on a bike, and they can make direction changes so much quicker. But to get the lay of the land and a better feel of what the track is in reality, I found onboard cars to actually be more useful than watching motorcycle stuff. So next point is that the Team Hammer Day, I think, was the right choice for me. I talked about this at Gingerman, that I wouldn't do the track day as opposed to doing the race practice. But I felt like me and the other two I was with did the race practice. I wanted to do the guided Team Hammer track day as opposed to the race practice. And the Hammer Day was run by, well, a bunch of professionals that know stuff. They'll know more about Daytona than pretty much anybody. And I just felt like it was a really good way to get my feet wet in a more controlled environment. And when you come down to race here, it's not just like a normal race day where you have 2 days of races. Thursday is the practice day, and then it's racing on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's more spread out. So I knew I was going to throw away my Friday races. Those were just going to be practices because I wouldn't have been on track with anybody really my pace. And even in the hammer day, I don't even know if there was anybody else on a lightweight. Everything was 600s and up. So Friday was just going to be throwaway, just get used to it. But I preferred doing that team hammer track day because I got to talk to people that are professionals and get a lot of insight, and I was able to go slower and find some of those visual markers on this track that I would have never noticed on the practice day, at least not nearly as quickly, and I thought that actually helped me. And then the last point I had of the things I learned, and I wish I would have learned this earlier, we figured this out on Sunday. Go watch the races from up top on the garages. So there's like 4 different garages, and you can get up on some of them. We were up there watching the races on Sunday. Actually, we were watching Chris race. Aaron and I were watching him. And you see the bikes coming out of turn 4 onto the front straight. And you just look, and I got chills watching the bikes come out of 4. And I was like, holy shit, we were doing that? I mean, they were going faster, but holy shit, we were doing that? It was super cool and something unlike I've actually, experienced at any other track. So those are the things that I learned. All right, how did I end up going here? I didn't actually know I was going to be going down until about 10 days beforehand. Chris had been talking about it, and I got very lucky in that there was an opportunity where there was one more spot in a trailer that was leaving from Wisconsin down to Daytona. And he said if I wanted to take that spot, I could pay some money and take that spot. And I was unsure about it. I went out to dinner with my grandma. I took her out for her birthday, her and my aunt. And I was explaining this to her because I was still unsure about it because it's a huge commitment. It's a lot of days off work. And who knows what I'm getting into. And she hates the fact that I ride a motorcycle. She's hated it for 20 years. She especially hates the fact that I'm now racing a motorcycle. She looked at me and she said, you have to go. So I called Chris and I said, I'm going. So that's how that kind of came about. Put everything together. Worked on the bike. I had previously crashed not that long ago at Blackhawk. Kind of really wadded up the bike, replaced subframe, replaced a whole bunch of stuff. I did a track day at Road America, put 3 sessions in, said it was fine. All right, I trusted it enough. When you're going down there and you get into Daytona and you see that mound that is the banking, but you see it from outside the track, you're like, holy shit. It's so much different than you expected. Just seeing stuff on TV and everything. Like, I've been watching this place for 30 years. I didn't expect to see what I saw as soon as we just got in there, and I hadn't even seen the track yet. It's a weird thing. But yeah, the banking is very fun. You get down there, you see a fair amount of stuff that's knocked over by hurricane damage and whatnot, but I don't think that area actually got that bad. We only saw a couple signs and stuff down. So then getting into it, the way that the weekend went is the weekend. Thursday was the practice day, and then races Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I went down there knowing whatever Friday was just going to be throwaway. That was just practice. I will not have been in a draft. I won't have even been close to anybody else. I would have just been getting my bearings. Now, I know that's true for everybody else going down there, but especially for me, Friday, I had nothing to prove at all. Saturday was another day of races, and then Sunday. And Sunday, I think had the ULSB race. That was the race I most wanted to do well in. And ended up running into some issues, so that wasn't actually going to be the case. I ended up finishing, I'm pretty sure, last every single race. But why don't we go and talk about the GTL race, and I'll take you around the track. All right, so it's Friday now, going into the GTL race. Not sure where I qualified. I assume towards the back. There's no practice going into this. This is the first time I'm going into this turn 1. And it's real weird. Obviously, you can't start on the banking. And so let's just see where we go. I had no idea where you were even supposed to start braking for this thing, and I don't think I ever really figured it out, but you'll see I know that most of my smarts for this whole thing were very weird. But yeah, it's an interesting start here. So we're to turn 1. Turn 2, I don't know why I'm slowing down there. I should be getting aggressive. This is before I had figured out how much I needed to slow down, so I'm going to be constantly overrunning this turn. Now this looks slow, I'm still going too fast. I actually didn't set direction that bad that time, but most of the time I was blowing through that turn. This upcoming turn, I think this is turn 4. This is where there's a bump in the middle of it, so I'm going 85. So I was taking that turn at about 100 miles, but there's a couple times it was like 105 earlier or later in the weekend, so I can go through there a whole lot faster. I didn't know that yet. I'm just getting acquainted with this track at race pace. I haven't been around any other bikes that are similar to mine yet. So I believe this is turn 6. We're going to be getting up onto the banking from here. There's a ton of runoff, but I feel like I probably should have been cutting it closer. Well, I wasn't that bad on that one, but not going very fast. So now, yeah, you're up on the banking. Watching this on video does not do justice to just what it feels like in person. So I know this guy on my left, he's also on an SV650, and he was one of the only bikes I was able to keep with. That rear tire doesn't look like a 160 on that one. Maybe it is, not sure. So I'm on a stock SV, if you watch this channel you already know that, but I'm on a stock SV650. This bike was born with 65 to 68 horsepower. I haven't done any engine modifications to it, and judging by the out-of-round cylinders that I have now found, I'd be lucky to still have that 65. But yeah, I knew I was going to be back here, just running around, and that's kind of how most of this race goes. It was pretty much just me figuring out where to go on the track and getting used to running around other bikes that had similar power to me. Now that turn 1, again, it took until Saturday probably until I figured out where the braking marker was on that. So there's a bunch of black markers in the infield, and I didn't even realize that through the entire practice day. I was trying to eyeball different turn-in points, which is just stupid. For somehow I missed all of that. But yeah, I figured that one out later in the weekend, actually, where I wanted to start turning. But you could take that turn 1 through so many different paths that it's probably turn 1 is the #1 spot where if I ever get to go back here, there's, I think, literal seconds that I'm going to be able to take. So I think the best I did in this race is like a 2:18, which is not terribly good, but that's what I did. So let's find something else. This one isn't terribly fun, but this is the first time ever we had put a camera on Chris's bike. We put one of my other cameras before my primary camera ended up dying. We put a camera on his bike, and this is the beginning of, I don't know, one of the races on Saturday. And Chris ends up having to crash here that had nothing to do with him. He was just in wrong place, wrong time. But you could see his starts are just... Dude, he is a dude who doesn't fuck around on the starts. I love it. I want the energy to not be a pussy on the starts. And there he goes. All right, so he's going to be making a play for third here in amateur, and then second in his sights. And then, all right, so we're going to be going into turn 3 here, very slow turn. You can see he's going to be sizing up P2. We'll get through turn 4 here. Sorry about all the shaking, but that was as good as we could do with trying to get rid of the shaking with Gorilla Tape. And then coming into 5. And I mean, what are you gonna do? Let me just show that one more time. Okay, the front wheel of that bike just lets go, and then just collateral damage. But the reason I wanted to show that one was just to tell a quick story in that. So Chris went down. He was all right. He was banged up, but he was all right. He knew his clip-on was broken. Immediately, we knew we didn't have another clip-on. I went on the hunt. Aaron started taking the bike apart. I knew that Aaron was in the mood where he was going to fix this bike and Chris wasn't going to miss anything. I started to try to help him, and I realized, nope, I know how to fix it, but I can't fix it as quick as he can. So all I got to do, I have to go on parts duty. I ended up finding, I think it's called Street and Competition or something like that. I found a vendor there, found another a Woodcraft clip-on, so it wasn't going to be exactly the exact same thing. The angles were going to be different, but he was going to be able to race. All I was doing was lining up tools that I thought Aaron was going to need, and somehow he had that bike fixed before the next race. And actually, we got a huge gift by a red flag on one of the 400 races because we would not have made it before then because Chris was in tech during that red flag. But yeah, that situation sucked. But man, you can get a lot done when you just let people who know what they're doing actually do it. And then I swear, I don't know if this is my fuck up or somebody else's, but I swear somebody was in my spot. So I was talking to the woman. I said, that person's in my spot. She said, all right. So I just moved up to the next one. I walked the bike up to the next one because I was like, oh, well, I got to get into a spot. I don't want to keep this, race held up. So I think I'm in a row in front of where I'm supposed to be. Anyway, this is Sunday, by the way. And let me just mention, so by this point, I have figured out a bunch of the spots where I should be faster. At this point, my bike is already not running correctly. We've changed spark plugs. We've changed so much shit on it. What actually caused all these issues, I don't know. Ultimately, I think it turned into a fueling issue. There may have been something in it. I have taken the carburetor apart. I've taken the fuel pump apart. I have taken every single thing of that bike apart, and it was spotless inside of it. But I now that I've gone through it, I think it's a fueling issue, despite the fact that I found cylinders that were way out of round. We suspected that it's likely a burned valve. The valves don't look burnt. They don't look good, but they don't look burnt. Anyway, I'm now in this position. I've walked the bike up to here. Well, now we're getting ready for the race that I have been prepping my entire week for. 22-hour drive down there, 3 days prior. I know I'm not going to be anywhere near the front. I've learned a lot. I want to put some of this into practice, so let's go. I didn't put the fucking bike in gear. My hands are up immediately. I'm terrified. I assume I'm just going to get fucking nailed from behind. I know it happens. That was the scariest situation I've ever been in on a motorcycle. The neutral light on this bike doesn't work. I've since found out, since taking apart the bike this winter, why it didn't work. The last person that reassembled this $100 engine that I bought, so I probably shouldn't be complaining. The neutral light springs and contacts weren't installed, and that's why I was never able to figure it out. Anyway, I'm on a mission to put into practice what I have learned before I know that this bike is going to die on me, because I have been feeling it dying. It was dying on Saturday. It was dying in the practice this morning, but I could usually get like 2 laps out of it first. And this is the first race of Sunday. This is the race that I was hoping would actually be wet. I want to catch that group in front of me. Now, I put myself way behind the 8 ball on this one, because while I might be able to catch them in the infield, I've probably got the least amount of horsepower out here. It's not a crutch. That's just it. Well, sorry, it is a crutch, but it's also realistic. But if I can keep those 2 in my sight, I can put into practice some of that get faster everywhere. So coming into, I don't know if I do it this well on this first one, but I was pushing this braking marker much further than I had been. I know I can go further in the future, but I'm looking for that 2, and then I'm counting like 1 Mississippi, and then I'm putting it down. I was braking at like the 2.5 on all the previous races. I learned you can run over that curb, no big deal. I mean, it jostles you a little bit, but not too bad. Anyway, I want to be able to see these guys going into turn 1. Obviously, there's only 2 bikes I can even keep up with in this entire race, and it's those 2. And as long as I can see them going into turn 1, I feel like I've at least learned enough in all of the campfire talks at night. I might be able to make up a little ground in the infield. So, alright, so yeah, that's where braking point was for turn 1. Oh, I stood it up a little bit there. That was too early. But yeah, I was not braking, but I was letting off for turn 2 when we started. Not anymore. And I'm sure I'm gonna overrun this because I gotta, overrun it big. Because I'm all just wound up and ready to go. I know nobody's behind me. All I want to do is catch the dudes in front of me. Try to navigate that bump here. And I can still see them. I don't know the route through the 2 turns yet, the 2 horseshoes. But it's one of the... God, I just want to go back there so bad. Because I would change so much of what I was doing because I just didn't know. So, I think in the second race on Friday, I had dropped from a 218 in the GTL to a 215 in the... whatever the second race was. I think this one is AMA Thunder Bike on Sunday. But where I think I should have been, I think I should have been able to get to the 213s by the end of this week if I wasn't having issues. And you'll end up seeing some of the issues in this race. Which 213 still pretty much leaves you last place, but I was only running against the clock. I wasn't running against other people on this one. When I came down here, it was because I didn't drive myself. That this was a favor to me to be able to come to this race. It was very much in my head, don't fuck up, don't do something stupid. And this is what had been happening. So my bike is stuck at 7,000 RPMs. Right now, I should be taking my ass into the pits. I didn't. And this is also what's leading me to believe it was a fueling issue. You see how I got some of my revs back? Now, they're starting to drop again. But it's changing based on the direction of my bike. I should have gotten off there because I put myself in another scary situation. It didn't actually have to be scary. I had a ton of safety factor, but I didn't know that. But on the infield, I wanted to catch those fucking bikes again because I didn't want to leave this 22-hour trip without at least trying my best. So I'm going to try to make up a little bit of time during the infield and see if I can catch back up to it. I probably can't, but I'm going to try. Now, I'm kind of losing them. Alright, bike's going a little bit nuts at this point. I'm thinking by watching this video, it's more and more obvious that it's likely a fueling issue, given the fact that the angle of the bike is affecting it. This is the second to last race that I did. If you'd have heard the bike at the end of it, though, it sounded so bad. And when people heard it going by, the people that were watching, they said that thing sounds terminal. So at this point, I know that I want to get off the track. Problem is, I'm like 2 miles away. I want to get off the track before the leaders catch back up to me. Luckily, it's like a 2-minute track, so it's going to be a while until they catch up to me. But I'm just praying that this thing... Well, right here, it's not a scary situation. But coming up to that bus stop, you're at a choke point. I know now nobody's going to catch me. But I wasn't certain at this time that nobody was going to catch me. And you don't want to be going 70 miles an hour slower than somebody coming into a bus stop where there's one lane through it, and you're the fucking jackass that's about to cause a pile up, you know, for a bunch of the leaders. So, yeah, I'm not going to get back on the banking. That was it for me. So that was my time at Daytona International Speedway. Judging by the on-track footage, you may think you didn't have a very good time. And I didn't even show half the shit that happened. I had an awesome time. This place was incredible. I didn't expect to like the track. I knew it would be an experience. I knew it was something I wanted to cross off my bucket list. I knew I wanted to do it once in my life. I thought this would be the only time I ever did it in my life. It turns out I want to go back there again. This track was awesome. I don't know if I'll get to go again next year. I don't know if I'll get to go again within the next 5 years. This video will not be the last time I am ever at this track, though. I am going back there I am taking the same bike, and if I think I 2:15.3 was the quickest I went, realistically, 2:12s would be my goal next time. Optimistically, and I don't even think it's that optimistic, I think I could break 2:10s on this bike. Yeah, I'm dropping the hypothetical like I know some shit, like I can just drop 6 seconds. I think I can go that much faster. So, anyway, if you get the opportunity to ever run Daytona, if somebody offers you a ride in their trailer and you can take it, take it. I had the shittiest performance out of every person that was in any one of those garages, and I had one of the most memorable weekends of my entire life. So, if you watched this far, thanks for watching.